17? Is that the whole?
Alright, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, you press this like side button. Right here. Yeah.
How was your weekend? Anything exciting? Nothing? Exciting? Care to share? Group 3, who's my group 3? Who's the next group? How's it looking so far? You ready? Oh, Wednesday, okay. Alright, group 3 Wednesday. Friday, I'll put in the announcements, but Friday we will have our first exam. Right, so we got 4 exams in this course. Exam 1 will cover the first 3 chapters, possibly even the 4th chapter, depending on how far we get with this. And so Wednesday we'll have exam review. Friday we'll have the exam. But we'll take the exam home. We'll take that home. So what'll happen is the exam will open up on Canvas, class 9. And so you'll have your 50 minutes to complete that question. Yeah, did you see the new instructions? Okay, yeah, I put an announcement for the ebooks or access to the Macmillan online course, which has ebooks. I put some new instructions on it. It has a whole YouTube video to kind of show you exactly every single thing there. So, check that out. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, did you say when the exam is?
When?
Yeah, when, yeah.
Yeah, Friday.
Friday?
Yeah, I'll put an announcement for campus too, but it'll be this Friday. We'll stay home. They'll open up during class time, and it'll close during the end of class, right? So it'll be from 2:30 to 3:20. It'll be about 10 questions, short essay format, right? Not a big person believes in multiple choice, fill in the blank, I think it's kind of silly, right? Which means that I'll give instructions, but really it's gonna be from your point of view, add in your own personal experience. To know if someone kind of truly can grasp the concept, they can apply it to themselves. That's how I feel is a good assessment of knowledge. You can apply it to yourself in some way. Any other questions? All right, so yeah, we'll do exam review on Wednesday, so there'll be no surprises. You'll know what to expect. You'll know all the sort of items I'll cover on the exam. Right, so it should be pretty simple. You know exactly everything pretty much when asked. All right, we are at chapter 4, which is nature and nurture, right, and their interaction. I think I may have asked you before, hey, what do you think is more predominantly influential in terms of maybe your own behavior, who you are, your personality traits, et cetera, et cetera. Some of you may have said, hey, it's genetics, it's nature. Some of you may have said, hey, it's nurture, it's environment. What do you think? In terms of yourself, your own distinct personality, who you are right now, whoever you tell you. Do you think it's more genetic? Like, no. Or do you think it's environment? I don't know. A little bit different. What do you think? What do you think? Anybody here that's like completely outside of their box? Or say they're family members. Like you're just completely different. Like you're the first one to go to college. You're the smartest person in the family. You were described as the weirdo of the family. You know, you just do everything different. Anyone? Just for reference, we keep kind of this simple concept of personality types. All right? Hexaco, and we got Ocean. using simple acronyms, right? You say, hey, in psychology, we use an ocean model to describe personality traits. We either say someone's high or low on those domains of personality traits. The hexagon is kind of a more modern, but we'll start with ocean. Ocean is openness, right? So openness is really someone who's open to new environments. Right? This means that this person may not be as conventional, traditional. Like they're open to new experiences. They're open to new ideas. Right? Others may be like, hey, no, they're low on openness. They like the old way. Hey, you want to try a new coffee spot? Nah, it's not good now. Hey, want to try this cool restaurant? No, I just kind of. Hey, want to go travel to this remote island? You know, kind of scared. Right? That person be low on openness. High on openness, like, hey, let's do it. Let's try it again. Right? C, conscientiousness. So you can apply this even to yourself. Say, hey, are you conscientious? Conscientious is well aware how aware you are of your environment, how well you are of yourself. Do you know yourself? Do you know others very well? Are you recognizing the forces that's happening in you? Right? Or in any environment. So conscientious. So we can let people say, hi, well, conscientious. E, extroversion. Who are the introverts in the class? Think about it. Introverts hesitate. So they're introverts. You know. Who's the extroverts in the class? Who's introvert, extrovert? Right? That means that most of us are introverts. We're looking around for other people to raise their hand before we feel comfortable to do it. We are like, I don't know, the social forces won't allow them to just say what I want to say and do what I want to do, right? We're concerned about everybody else. So we can say, hey, some people are introvert, extrovert. Very simple concept. You're like, hey, it's a phone battery. Introverts lose their battery life when they're in groups. Extroverts gain battery life when they're in groups. So an introvert, around a bunch of people, like, oh my God, this is exhausting. There's too many ideas, too many people. Battery drop low because they lose energy. Right? They get too much. Extroverts, like, they lose energy when they're alone. They're like, I need to go out and kick it. Go party and hang out. Right? And then A, agreeableness. Right? Agreeability. No surprise that most of the people in prison are men. Men are higher up on they're lower on agreeability, right? We fight, we kill each other, we don't like them. I disagree with them all. I disagree with the rules. I disagree with that concept, that idea. Men are highly disagreeable. Women tend to be more agreeable. Hey, a lot of social, political things going on. That's fine. It's okay. Let people be who they want to be, right? Nurturing is more of a feminine trait, right? It's about the nurturing. Men are more about, like, that just don't make sense and disagree, so let's fight. Neuroticism, the N. So we say, hey, how inclined do you overthink? Overthink in a negative way. Right? Like, overthink, meaning that you think in a way to where you never want to be disappointed. So you think low. You expect the worst all the time. You do that as a comforting mechanism so that, hey, if it exceeds your expectations, you're like, wow, right? I'm surprised because I expected always to be bad, right? So we can always describe people in just these key ways to say, are they high or low? And then we kind of assess what kind of person they are. We kind of predict a lot of behaviors from people. The hexagon had to add a few things. A lot of these are similar, but simply, humility was added and emotionality. There's extroversion, agreeability, conscientiousness. So it had humility. We had to add humility because we left out a few groups with this ocean model, and that was psychopaths, sociopaths, Machiavellian types, which we call the dark triad. Right? What's the difference? Psychopaths, sociopaths, Machiavellian. Anybody know? Any difference voting system that probably make you read that. Become a political leader, you probably read The Prince. Become a king or something of the sort, or anything, top of the mafia. There's a book about power, how to get power through deception, manipulation, doing all the right things, right? Deceiving people, sleight of hand, manipulate them so that you can keep and obtain power. What about psychopaths, sociopaths?
Well, psychopaths just don't feel other people's emotions. They just feel they're just the center of the world and they can't understand other people. Like, I don't know, they just can't understand. I don't know how to describe it, but they can't.
Yeah, you say, well, they don't have what a normal person will have, like a response, emotional reaction, emotional response. I have emotions, yes.
The other one, we only have feelings towards specific people in their life.
Sociopaths or psychopaths?
Sociopaths, they can.
Yeah, that could be somewhat true. Hey, psychopaths are genetic, sociopaths are environmental. You can't change psychopaths, that's it. Born psychopath, literally, we could look at your brain and say, your limbic system, which controls emotion, it don't have the response that a normal person does. No matter what type of therapy we do, or all type of stuff, we can make you manage it. Manage it through doing some other things, but we can't make you lose it. Right, sociopaths are nurtured that way. I mean, it's like somewhere along your upbringing, mommy, daddy, something, either some traumatic experience caused you to no longer care, or your parents just kind of raised you that way. They could have possibly raised you to be very military-minded, be assassin-trained types of mentalities, but you just don't have a response, right? You wouldn't be shocked if you saw somebody's head blow up in front of you, probably wouldn't even respond. I had a friend in the FBI, and he's been to Afghanistan, Iraq, he's done all this stuff, crazy stuff. And he has that mentality. He has absolutely no response to like anything, like you would think would be like crazy stuff happening. He's just like, no response, right? A little bit different than the rest of us, we'd probably all be frightened.
Are psychopaths born that way, or?
Psychopaths are born, yeah, they're genetic.
No.
Sociopaths are nurtured that way. Which means sociopaths may be selective in who they do, kind of like what we said over here. There may be certain people, they do have an emotional response. The thing about dangerous these people are, so dangerous that they're the most successful people on the planet. You will not meet a CEO that is not at least a sociopath. It just can't happen. In order to lead large groups of people and make certain decisions that you can sleep with at night, such as like, I had to fire 30,000 people. Too bad, I guess children can't go to college anymore, lose their big home. Right? I gotta sign that off. You're not gonna be able to do that. You won't be able to sleep. You'll be stressed out, right? They go bomb that city, drop a bomb with a drone and kill about 7,000 people. There might be some innocent people there. Somebody gotta make the call. Who's gonna make the call? Right? You ever sleep that night with that? Yes.
Can psychopaths live everyday life like everyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. It has nothing to do with them living everyday lives. It just has to do with them not, as the state is here, having a disconnect on how normal people would react to certain things, right? Like getting dumped, losing a job. Hearing the worst news, somebody in your family could die. It would be no response. Emotional response. Now, can they manufacture it? Sure. It's manufactured, which means it's an act. It's an assessment by, I think people usually respond this way to this particular thing, right? It's manufactured, yes.
Can like psychopaths and like sociopaths convince themselves that they're doing something good?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, we call this stuff antisocial personality disorder, right? And if something's anti, well, what's pro? Pro-social personality is like, hey, I go to class, I talk to people, I raise my hand, I could talk to my mom, I hang out, I haven't killed anybody, like, okay, I'm just a normal person, I'm pro-social. Antisocial is like, hey, we could see it early. The kid got kicked out of school. Why? Antisocial. So if we look at criminals, we would say that's antisocial personality. You cannot follow rules. You couldn't follow procedures. You saw it early. You might have killed some cats and dogs when you were a kid. We're like, whoa, this is just abnormal behavior, right? So yeah, we could see it very early on. You can see this. But are they successful? Yes, they're the most successful. Because they lack the emotional response in certain positions that will trigger us, that will give us stress. So like, hey, it's probably a good trait to have some sociopathic behavior to a degree. If you want to be high leadership role. You get what I mean? High leadership role. All right, I don't want to stay too long on that, but that's just kind of like, hey, you want to assess somebody's personality, remember ocean model, remember Hexagon, right? It's good. You're like, hey, let me try that on mom, dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, or even yourself. What are you? Hey, so this chapter we're talking about nature versus nurture, right? We say nature is before conception, right? Genes from mom and dad, and their ancestors too, grandpa, grandma, maybe the ancestry of, I don't know, 12 generations on. And you can say nurture is anything past conception. Hey, how much alcohol did mom drink? She was pregnant. What does she eat? Does she eat Fritos all day? Right? Oh, yeah, now I'm born. And what's that environment like? Right? What school did I go to? What are the friends I'm having? Right? What's my lifestyle? And so we really want to understand the difference between the two. The trick is to understand that we all possess about 99.9% of the same genes. Right? All of us. But how the genes express themselves are different. Right? Which means that how my hair, face, is different of an expression of genes. But it is that we're not different species. We're not in a classroom full of different species of people. Right? There's not even a biological reality of race. Race is socially constructed, not a biological fact. Right? If we're classing different types of species of things. Not true. But we say, hey, it is a fact, very much a fact, that our genes have expressed ourselves differently based on some factors, environmental factors of our ancestors, right? Blah, blah, blah. But here we're trying to understand, hey, does that control your behavior? Which one's controlling your behavior more? As psychologists, we kind of want to put it on a 0 to 1 scale to keep it simple. So we could say, hey, anything closer to 1, past maybe 0.5, is a proclivity to genes, right? Heritability, like, it was inherited. Anything less than that, you might know it's environmental, right? So we can kind of think about that. Like, we did a study and concluded, like, hey, in a group of 11 children, one person became president. 11 children were completely raised in the projects, or no money, no education. But one person that became president of the United States. Was it genetic? Environmental? They say, like, I don't know. Maybe it was predominantly environmental. One person left and actually traveled around and experienced life, got away from that mindset, boom, success. Right? But I want you to think of it in that way, so that we can make it simpler, like a proclivity, a tendency to be more genetic or more nurture. All right, so we're going to talk about genes and individual development, evolution and psychology, nature, nurture, and brain, looking back and looking ahead. Here we're shown here are women from the Hadza culture, Tanzania and East Africa. How do you think you differ from your culture's current self that we have been raised? So the question is this. They asked Warren Buffett. Who knows who Warren Buffett is? Tell me who Warren Buffett is.
He has the most successful portfolio.
Yeah, probably most successful investor in human history. He started a company called Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway essentially buys majority shares in companies. So you go look up, hey, who owns the majority of Coca-Cola? Might be Berkshire Hathaway. Who owns the majority of McDonald's? Might be Berkshire Hathaway. Who owns the majority of Geico? Berkshire Hathaway. Right? By companies, by majority share. I used to work for Berkshire Hathaway a long time, with the real estate part. But they asked me like, hey, what's the secret? Come on, man, how come you're the greatest investor of all time? Tell us. He was like, time, chance, opportunity, maybe a little bit of chance. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, had I been born a slave in the 1830s and in the South, a different location, I wouldn't be where I am today. So we have to place real factors of ourselves, because sometimes we get real full of ourselves. But we don't think of like the intersection of the variables of life. You were born when you were born, to what parents, they gave you a name, you didn't choose that name, you still use that name today. It's not your name that you choose, given to you. Right, so all these factors that were given to you, and now you're just trying to play it out. Maybe you could change a little bit of that, right? Depending on, your own thinking, or your own will. But sometimes we think like, that we're just, having the perfect sort of recipe. Not true. A lot of it was given to us, time, chance, and fortune. So they're asking, hey, how do you think you're different from your current self if you had been raised? Good question. What do you think? Hey, if you were raised where they were raised, how do you think you're different from your current self? Right? I'll answer the question. I'll make it easy. I don't know. If I look different, right? If I look a lot different, guess what? I speak a different language. Different language. If I have a different, will I be happier? I can't say that. What we do, iPhones, Tesla cars, what we do, a lot of people I know in the automatic world in this country are miserable. They work too much, never get out of time, stressed out. I don't know. So I can say that I'd be happy or something like that. They're probably happy. They're happy with what they got. We're not happy with what we got. What we got. That's why we're in college. We're trying to be the greatest version of ourselves, right? Okay, genes, monozygotic twins, dizygotic. Keep it simple. Remember mono and di, 1 and 2, right? Talking about genes. These are twins. So we could say, hey, if you came from one, we'll go through what all, this is a prenatal development, a zygote, right? Say the earliest stages of life in mom's belly, where the sperm meets the egg, turns into a zygote. Is it from one cell twins, which we would call identical twins, like they share the same gene, same cell that they came from, or a dizygote? Right? Genes split into two, but they're still twins. Two people in mom's belly come out at the same time. Hey, these are fascinating creatures to study, fascinating people to study, right? Because we're like, hey, we came out at the same time, in the same womb, all these different things, you should be the same. You should absolutely think the same, so we study a lot of these. This is what we're gonna kind of talk about the twins. So the research question, what explains intelligence, nature, nurture, why, and both? So we're going to talk about intelligence. Let me ask you, right, you're all in college, which means that you're intelligent. You're probably very smart in high school, probably some of the top in your class, or at least as top thinkers. What do you think explains your intelligence? Your genes or your environment? What would you give more credit to? Is it the schools you went to? Is it the curriculum at the school? Or you just like, it didn't matter what school I went to. I still would have been as smart as I am now. What do you think?
Probably just you. Just you, your mindset.
So it's your nature. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Maybe both, because maybe you could have gone to a school that didn't teach you as much, but you had a parent that probably knew a lot in that subject, so they taught you it better than the school did, or like vice versa, maybe your parent didn't know that subject as well, but you understood the material far more better than they did, so
this information, another person's like, no, I ain't gonna work at it. Right, mom had to expose me to it and talk about it a million times, and then it clicked, something clicked in my brain. And I became great at math, or science, I understood yada, yada, yada. That could be the nurture, right, like, it was work, it wasn't just given to me, yes.
I feel like no matter like where you at, like broke or especially in America, like you have access to knowledge, you have the internet, you have every single book on the internet. So I don't think like just like college, like every college just goes from a textbook, so you can purchase a textbook or figure something out. Like it's all online. Like whatever you're teaching, it's on the textbook.
Mhm.
And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars for a college to buy one textbook, learn the same stuff. So I don't know. I feel like it's not like in the olden days where you have to go.
So are you saying that is nature? That is just, hey, if the person has it in them, they will be great, whether they don't go to college, go on YouTube all day or like something? Or are you saying something else?
It's saying kind of like now, like your environment doesn't affect you as much when it comes to knowledge. First of all.
Okay, so you're saying it's nature, that the environment really doesn't affect.
Yeah.
The school's not gonna help that much, maybe what you're saying.
Yeah, if you want it enough, you get it.
If you want it, you can get it. So you're saying it's nature. Hey, that's a good argument. But maybe we have a counter argument. Maybe the counter argument is that in your pocket, when you walk around, you have all the information of practically every subject in the universe. Well, I was just saying planet. None of us are billionaires. Right? None of us are millionaires. Well, I don't know, maybe, right? Except for Dr. Ross, but.
But doesn't that prove my point? Because we all work, however, there's only 0.1% people that are billionaires, right? There's like 850 in America that are billionaires. That's like one of the most. Like we all work, so why are certain people billionaires? Because
That's what I'm saying. So you're like, hey, you know what? That's an interesting question. You're like, we have all the information to possibly be billionaires, millionaires, whatever. We don't. We come to school, right? We come to school, which means that we'd rather go on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram, listen to YouTube, listen to Spotify music all day, yada, yada, yada. That's an interesting question. Like, well, what's driving that? Obviously, the environment has everything you need to be the smartest person on planet Earth, but we're not. Right? Not. Billions of people, not. So there's something else missing. It could be the argument, like you're saying, that it's just nature. Hey, there's some people who are gonna do it, and they're gonna do it regardless of the internet or not. Right? And there are some people that, like most of us, like, give us all the information in the world, we'll still be on TikTok. Right? Waiting for the check to come in 20 years from now, something like that. So, but this is where I want you to think about this, right? It's like to think about this. Right, because the question is college necessary? Yes, how is this necessary? How do we know? It survived about 600 years. People still coming to these institutions paying money. It matters. It does matter to some degree, right? Because how else would we know without college? As a society, we need a system of knowing. So college at least would be a standard of saying, hey, you know, you've completed this and that. We can know on the outside that you have these minimal basic skills of competency. Without it, all you have to do is take a word for it. Right? Hey, I'm smart. Okay, well, show me. Right? Well, just take a word. Right? And especially, right? And then even when we go back to college, it's like, once again, you'd be okay if you're a heart surgeon and had a GED, and that's it. We want your lawyer to drop out in third grade. Right? We just want the engineer who's gonna build a spaceship to go to space. I don't know, right? At least we might say there has to be some level of systemic structure to form basic competency and knowledge for people. If not, Okay, but good assessment on that. Okay, so in going back to intelligence and twins, right? Terkemeier in 2003 calculated effects of genes on intelligence amongst various SES levels. Remember, SES is socioeconomic status, which are kind of attributing to education, wealth, and status. Job quality would probably be status. Right, so some people are high up on economic status, other people not so much. So they try out the genes of monozygotic and dizygotic twins, and some of the findings, hey, high socioeconomic environments. And parents had a great job. Parents had high education, doctors and lawyers, etc. And they had a lot of money. The findings shown that from these environments, genes primary cause of individual differences in intelligence. Economically poor environments, genes explain few, if any, differences. Right? So it goes to show you, hey, this might say that environment, well, genes, they're saying like predominantly the genes from these people lead to successful intelligence in children, their offspring, right? Maybe they just have the genetics for it. And then we see the other argument like, well, subjectively, like, I don't know, maybe the genes did get them the wealth, maybe the genes allowed them to be that educated, and maybe the job quality is the genetic too, right? They just go there, so their own will. But maybe the wealth, education, and job quality is really the environment. Right? Maybe it allows the environment to be successful. Right? So here, on the y-axis, variability in intelligence is explained by genes and the percentage amount of socioeconomic status. So back to that study, hey, the more higher socioeconomic status you have, the higher degree of variability explained by genetics. So interesting, if we get more wealthier and get more power, there's more variability in intelligence explained by genes, which primarily states as kind of more environmental. Right? If you surround yourself with the smartest people, eventually you at a minimal level will become as smart as them. If you surround yourself by the most successful people, we kind of preclude that at a minimal basis you probably be as successful as them. Right? So it is kind of true, who you surround yourself with plays a huge part in your life. That's why I always say, hey, you're as great as the 5 closest people you hang around, right? We can kind of measure your greatness based on those 5 people. Which came first, human biology or human culture, right? Yes or no, biological features evolved as ancestral humans adapted to Earth's physical challenges. After biological nature in place, components of human culture developed. Right, so here we would say, hey, biology came first, culture came second, or biology and culture evolved together, or co-evolved in a co-evolutionary process. Human biology evolves in response to cultural practices, experience, and generation. What do you think? Biology first, then culture, or did they kind of intertwine and process together? What are your thoughts? Meaning that, does the culture tend to start to shape your biology at some point? Or the biology is the real primary driver, yes?
Human culture and human biology kind of intertwined, because at certain points, like before we evolved to who we are, we had to look at what we were given first, and then culturally we started to notice that like, oh, it's better that we have like the ability to talk, we have the ability to stand up and run, we have the ability to have like a fireflight, and then the things that we didn't need, we just like biologically like got rid of it as like we started to breathe more. And then like throughout history you can see that a lot of like
physical environment, right? How hot it is, how cold the climate is, trees, oxygen levels, gravity, right? The pull of gravity, whether you're up in the mountains or down in the valley, that might shape people's height. But then you say culture. You say culture is, does the culture become more masculine over time, right? For whatever sort of viewpoints. Does the culture become more feminine over time because of whatever viewpoints? And will that start to shape the actual biology? Will the offspring and the children start to change because of that process? Maybe the foods. You're like, oh, over time, we all become big as Americans. When we go to other places, everybody's skinny. We're like, hey, well, what is that? Is that the biology? Like, no, that's our lifestyle. We want to eat fast food, do all these different things, which means that our children will probably be bigger too over time. And Americans might just be big in the future because of our culture and our lifestyle, right? So we say, hey, it's a little bit of all these forces being processed together. Evolution. So the basic definition is process through which species change across generations. Coevolution is which biology and culture interacts in the course of that. Here, milk has been around for ages. The lactose in milk provides nutrient wideness. Is there any need for lactose-free milk? Shouldn't all humans, thanks to evolution by natural selection, have adapted to the environment and evolved the ability to digest lactose, Variations in lactose tolerance show that biology and culture interacted across the course of evolution. Who's lactose intolerant in the class? Who can't drink whole milk? Whole cow milk? No one? Anyone have any gluten issues? Right? So you're like, hey, if nature has provided that we should be able to ingest lactose milk, why are some of us intolerant to this, right? You say culture has changed the way that we're able to ingest milk. There's a lot of West Africans who are lactose intolerant, very similar to those in Britain. So we say something happened. It wasn't just an environmental thing. Oh, the British either came over and introduced cows there, in which case the nature of the existing people there in West Africa weren't able to digest it. And those people maybe spread around, moved back up to Britain too. So now, Britain as a sort of source of bringing these natural cows, meaning that they conquered most of the world, a lot of us around the world in different cultures are lactose intolerant. Right? Because our original biology doesn't allow us to ingest the milk from the cows that they had back in Europe. They didn't have cows where these other places were. Right? So things happening on that level. Let's see. The moral of the story, nature and nurture interact, right? So people's physiological and biological characteristics reflect a combination of the two. Gene environment interactions also evident in simpler plants, right? So anyone ever read any Darwin? Origins of the Species? Anyone against evolution as a thought process or school of thought? Tell me what you think.
I don't think it's right if you argue one thing that, well, I think you have to be against it too, because you said race isn't about your genetics, because we're 99%. So he's arguing that genetics are different, and that you're different than me, because there's a different species of human, what's it called, something with that H. That when we were created from monkeys, that there's different species and you're a different species. That's why, thus you're worse than me. It's a racist book trying to prove that you are worse because of this and this and this. Even though we learned that we are genetically the same. So first of all, if half your book is if your main argument is to be racist, I don't think majority of the other book is going to be wrong. And then we learned that it's wrong because we're genetically similar. I don't think it makes sense.
So you're saying, according to Darwin's sort of beliefs, that maybe Darwin's beliefs when it comes to human beings, might be a bit racist.
No, I'm saying, yeah, that's one of it, but I'm also saying if you're a scientist and you're a racist, you're gonna be biased, and then if the majority of your book is wrong, right?
Oh,
then-
I get what you're saying.
Then,
Okay. So it's like the personal viewpoints of the person can impact the science of what they're writing and their research and stuff like that?
yeah, and,
Okay.
and we learned that it's wrong, and it's.
Yeah, there's some bias even in the research and the finding. And we don't necessarily know for certain, we don't have 100% certainty when it comes to the evolution of modern day human beings, right? It's still some great arguments out there for or against the evolutionary school of thought, yes?
Well, what I'm also trying to argue is like, you have to change like the viewpoint, so if you believe in one thing, you can't also believe in the other if it's wrong. So let's say you believe in climate change, but you also believe in dinosaurs, right? And say, well, yeah, we have fossils, blah, 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 but during the period of dinosaurs was really hot, scientifically proven, and then we had the ice age, which was also scientifically proven. But thus, the earth goes through cycles, even without human interference. So you can't believe in one and not believe in the other. So you gotta make up your mind. But a lot of people don't like to question that.
Yeah, I mean, as a scientist, now I think that with the argument when it comes to climate change, the real question would be, is human beings' activities have an impact on either like accelerating maybe a different like cold shift, right, or climate change, if we have an impact on it. Meaning like if there is different cycles of climate that happen, are we sort of quickening it, exacerbating it, right? With fossil fuels and trapping more hot air under our atmosphere, things of that nature. So we can kind of maybe question that, but you're right, a lot of people aren't objective. It's usually a black or white argument, which is never really good in the scientific point of view, because then we always say that we know all the facts, and that's never really the case. Even when it comes to evolution, yes, we can see different species of plants, we could put them under some laboratory, see how they change, add more light, take away more light. But when it comes to human beings, we haven't changed much as far as we know for a very long time, right? Like we haven't changed much. The only thing that's changed is maybe our technologies and things of that nature. But in terms of like our capabilities, no one has grown wings to fly. No one has like really substantially changed to say, oh, this is completely different than previous generations. Some degree, right? So there's some arguments to be placed out there. So good points. All right, identical twins raised separately. Any twins in the class? Anyone who's a fraternal twin or an identical twin? You're a twin?
Yes.
What kind?
Identical.
Identical twin. Tell me about your Robert.
When in middle school, we usually had the same grades, so that when my brother, like, he had grade up grade, he kind of tell us apart. He's like slightly taller than me, like an inch or so.
Tell me about his behavior versus yours.
I'm not very confident, and mostly just strict, and he, not the same, but a bit different, like, he's a bit more talkative than me.
So there's some differences. What do you think are factors for the differences? What happened in was he exposed to something different from you? Was there always existed or so you had somewhat different experiences than you, and it changed. Yeah, so those are very famous studies. We could take your brother and we could do an experiment on you all to see like, hey, what was it? Why do you have different sort of behaviors even though you share identical biology? You literally came from the same cell. Didn't split into two, you literally came from that first cell together. How could you be different in any way? You should be absolutely identical in even all your behaviors. So that even from nurture kind of had some sort of change, right? Experiences changes people feeling that they share the same actual gene. All right, we'll finish this, when we come back on Wednesday. We got our presentation, and then we'll have our exam review. Once again, those who haven't had access to the ebook, go back on campus. I put in an announcement with the instructions, the detailed instructions. All right, I'll see you on Wednesday.